So this is kind of what we're working with here. A nice little turbo, all nice and new, externally gated. So the thing that I'm gonna have to do right off the bat is create a dump tube for the wastegate to tie into the exhaust. The AC lines, yes, they are in the way. They're rubbing a little bit right here, but he is gonna have these remade. Obviously that's gonna be an issue. So the AC lines are getting remade, but I am gonna try and find a way to pull these back a little bit so I can get a better idea, and then just find a way to tie it in, probably right down there off the downpipe. Now this downpipe is extremely close to the AC because this is going to be like this guy's daily essentially, so he needs to have air conditioning. But with that, it's literally a hair away from that compressor bolt, so I'm going to have to keep the 2.5 inch right there, and then right after the compressor area I'm going to do a 2.5 to 3 inch adapter. He's going to be coming by, like I said, and I think I told him to pick one up, so it's either 2.5 to 3 inch or 2.5 to 275, 275 to 3, but we'll trim it up. We'll try and make it look as nice as we can. And then you can see already that the pipe hangs really low right there, but he's got the full exhaust up there, so that way I can try and match it, but I don't really know if I'll do that as much as I will do section by section on the car to just make it so it's perfect, or as perfect as I can get it. But then the other piece that needs to be modified is this charge pipe here. I just mocked it up and it does hit right here. So basically all I can do is either try and curve it around it, which is gonna take a lot more material and a lot more effort, or I can just raise the height of it by like a 1/2 inch, which means I'll have to make a little bit of an extension to fit back here into the coupler. I have some excess material, so that's not an issue. The guy's paying extremely well anyway, so I'm not worried about spending some of my own aluminum. But as long as I keep it under the shock tower hat here, it will clear and that'll be fine. And then the last thing that I'll have to do is this pipe right here that goes to the bottom of the turbo. I just need to shorten the piece that he has. This dude did not short out on parts, so we got some V-bands here, so good quality stuff. We got some 45-degree bends here, all 3 inch. We got a 3 inch flex pipe because, you know, if you don't use a donut gasket, you need something to move in the exhaust, so that's what a flex pipe's purpose is. We got some full 180s here, so that way I can use them as 90s if I need to. 2 sections. We got a big old resonator, you know, to keep the noise down. We have a MagnaFlow muffler, you know, going for the stock stuff. Got 2 big old like 8-10 foot sections or whatever this is of 3 inch pipe, and then this is the charge pipe that I had modded or welded on previously, and that I will have to, like I said, lengthen. This is just my excess material. That's all eBay and chromed out, so I'm gonna have to clean that really well to weld on it. And here's the other section that will need to be shortened. But yeah, this dude did not cheap out. This dude's wanting it to be pretty nice, so we're gonna do our best at giving him just that. So I'm gonna go ahead and wait for this guy to get here so I can get his approval on the intercooler stuff, and because I need those little adapters really before I can get started on doing the exhaust. But I'm gonna drop the rest of the exhaust system that's on the car right now, so that way it's out of my way and I can kind of use it as a reference, I suppose. But yeah, we'll just wait for him. So getting started here with this section while he's still picking up some of the exhaust stuff. He's trying to find the section we need. The issue here being the fuel lines in the way, he is going to change that, but regardless of how that sits, this section was too long, so when it was sitting flush on there, it was bringing itself way over here, which is obviously an issue. So I'm working on trimming it right now. Got to cut a little bit more off and then re-add the section with the bead roll to it. But that's basically what I'm doing here, and by straightening that, I may not even have to raise the pipe up to clear the shock tower. I mean, we'll see, but... So I'm going to go ahead and cut that end section off, and then attach the bead roll, or at least tape the bead roll piece on, and kind of see where we're sitting from there. So this is the charge section. I got the angle cut out on this end, and I went ahead and just cut the other side with the bead roll on it, opposites, that way I could connect them just like that, and that would essentially just straighten my piece right there. So now that that's good, I'm gonna go ahead and tack that end on if I don't lose it. And then on this end that goes into the coupler coming through the frame rail, I'm gonna go ahead and just cut it right after the bead roll and then extend it probably 1 inch or so. I'll have to take my measurement, and then that will drop it down into the coupler there, and then this section will be good to go. So I went ahead and tacked this section up. I just test fit on the car. Fits exactly where I needed to, so I'm gonna go ahead and take the tape off and finish welding it. so there's the piece all welded up now. I'm gonna let it cool off before I stick the silicone on it. Don't want to melt it to it. And Rob has showed up, the owner of said big old eBay turbo car. Yeah. So, what, just daily driven, AC, exhaust, having fun with it?
Just an old people car.
Yeah.
It's fun.
But you want it to be quiet, so that's what we're here for. And obviously you can't always piece together everything perfectly unless you want to buy a full-on expensive kit, and we ain't about that life, so. Sorry, Gretty, but DIY for the win. This section I already went ahead and tacked. I had to use some of my piping, so it looks all chromy because it's eBay, so they have that crappy coating on there. So it may be a little difficult to weld, but I cleaned it up pretty well, so we'll see. But yeah, this is ready to actually be finished, and then that section will be taken care of. So right now I'm going to be working on this pipe right off the turbo. It just needs to be shortened. Kind of hard to measure because the AC lines in the fan are in the way. So I'm going to just go ahead and chop it probably right about there, and then mock the rest of it up, and then take measurements off of this section, and then reattach the beads since again, I don't have a bead roller, but once this is good to go, then we can start hopping onto the exhaust, which hopefully will go a little bit quicker. So here's the section that I made for the bottom, down here right off the turbo. Really limited room with the oil line and the AC lines and stuff, but it looks a little bit more of an aggressive bend in there on the outside, but it's really smooth transition on the inside, so I'm not worried about the air flowing or anything. It's just a little bit of a shelf here that I'm going to have to weld on, which is not too big of an issue. A little bit of a gap there, but again, not an issue. I'm pretty good at filling gaps. So there's the final product. Still needs to be clamped up, so it's a little loose in there right now, but it looks good. And the fuel line is kind of still pulling it down a little bit, but once it's actually clamped to the throttle body, it'll hold it up. But it's clearing the shock tower, so that's all good. And then down here off the turbo, we got the full section coming up and bends right around there. So all's well and ends well, at least with the intercooler stuff. Now we got to work on trimming this up and using an adapter, a 2.5 to 3 inch adapter. And then we also got to try and trim up here a little bit more so we can pull it away from the intercooler piping and get a little bit closer to the block. So whoever made this downpipe kind of must have had a lazy Friday or something, because I don't know if you guys, if I showed a clip earlier, it was like an 1/8 inch off the ground, like legit. So we had to trim it, or I just cut it in half really, I didn't trim it on my miter. But I just am going to rotate it like that, got my marks lined up right there, and that way it'll still be kind of crooked because the way they made it, I don't know why, it just aims it to the passenger side a little bit. But the piece that we're sliding over this section, I can just angle that appropriately and send the exhaust straight back. But this is 2.5 inch. There's really no way to fit a 3 inch up there right off the turbo. And so working with this section at least. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get this welded up now that that's all good to go. And then we can build the rest of the exhaust off of that, which will be really, so much easier. Like, yeah, this is, so finally I've started making some progress. I got this section re-welded to find out that it was still hitting the corner of the pan. So I had to take out a little bit of material here because the way it was angled. So I already got it tacked up there, so it's ready to be welded. And then it's already got the flex pipe, but he needed the bungs because he doesn't have any extra bungs. So we cut it right after here, and then I used a pie cut to angle it back up. And then used a 2.5 to 3 inch pipe adapter to this secondary flex pipe. And then off this flex pipe, I'm going to put just a little extension here, and then you put the first V-band. And then after that V-band, we're just going to run some pipe till we're clear of the shift linkage, and then we're going to add the resonator after that. So because this section's already all good to go, I don't want it breaking off. I'm going to go ahead and weld this all around, and then we'll be good to go, mock it back up, and then get the rest of the section put on. So this is where I'm at now. I'm ready to put my 90 in right there. So I'm going to add one of the V-bands right here, so that way this midsection can come apart in one piece. So this is a lot of fun, but my back is absolutely killing me from crawling around on the ground. Mark my words, one day I will have a lift to be able to do this type of stuff, and I'm super dirty. It's all over me. Look at that. Just, So I'm gonna go ahead and get this 90 put on. I'm gonna just keep on doing some work and updating you guys. It's really hard because I'm running out of daylight quick, so it's even harder to get the camera under there with good lighting. So I will film as I can. But yeah, this is turned out pretty good so far. So it is well past dark now. It is almost 7. So I'm almost done now. Or at least done getting everything set up. I'm on to the last section here, which is just the muffler. But I just finished up going over the control arm. So pretty much all I did was I took the 245s and I just cut them in the center, flipped them, and then attached them. So it's all tacked up. Put the V-band right there so that way, you know, axle back section's easy to take off. And then for the S, like I said before, I used the 290s. And then there's the V-band right there, and the resonator up there. So this thing is pretty mint, and I hope that's enough clearance for the control arm. But I guess we'll see. If it's not, then I'm gonna have to probably trim this back a 1/4 inch or so and then re-weld it. But I mean, once I get the muffler section hung up, then I will I'll put the rear end down on some bricks or something and see how much the suspension compresses. I got a little bit more work done this morning since I left you guys off last night. I pretty much just finished the muffler section and now I'm working on welding everything up. So I've already got the S section, the muffler section welded, so I'm gonna go finish the midsection now on my little makeshift table thing. So yeah, not obviously, I don't know, it'll work. Definitely some big old piping, so it was really honestly kind of hard to fit in there, up in there, at least for me, being that I am no exhaust shop, but I just have fun doing this stuff. So this is the muffler section. Had to use the 45 and get it to go over the arm. Had to bring this over, and then had to use a few pies to kind of bend it down and then curve it a little bit to the right, so that way I could get the muffler as centered as I could. But even then, I still had to kind of turn the turn down a little bit to the right, so that way it would be more or less centered coming out the bumper, but it doesn't look too bad. I don't know if he wants to paint it or if he's going to do something like that, but it's pretty solid. So once this midsection's welded up, I'm going to go mock it all back up on the car, and then I got to cut the hangers off of this old muffler and stuff so I can reuse those because I don't have any hangers, and so obviously needs to be hung. So yeah, almost done. This is going to be my biggest problem here, is trying to get the dump tube to tie into the exhaust, because that manifold down there, or the downpipe, I mean, isn't exactly the smoothest transition. So I know my transitions on my pies, they're not super smooth because I was using big angles, but this one's kind of janky. Not janky, jagged. It's got like the sharp edge there, so it's going to be hard to tie this in there. So I'm thinking I'm going to have to trim this up, cut these flanges off, and use this little 90 piece here, and then try and tie it in somewhere down there. But being that these AC lines are also in the way, that makes it just that much harder because I've got this absolutely minimal space to work. So yeah, this is gonna be tough. And I am no young static. I'm just out here trying to make some money and try and do things and make them work. But Static is definitely an expert at this. So finally, the stupid exhaust is done. My back is straight killing me, but I just finished up with the hangers, and let's give it a quick little sound test, shall we? say that's pretty adequate for an old man car. So I think I'm gonna call that. I'm gonna roll under the car really quick, check for the leaks. Again, I still gotta do that dump pipe. I gotta figure that out. So I can already see this is gonna be a problem because I only have this much material to work with and that little bit there. And I can't put the flange straight on it to even mock it because it hits the runner or whatever. So I have to cut the flange off and then bolt it up and then try and work with what I got here. So I can tell it's just, I don't know. I'll start with cutting the flange and see where I'm working with after that, but this is gonna be really difficult with this much material. So because I've got such little material to work with, I'm gonna just try and construct this a little bit at a time. So I'm starting off with this first 90 just to clear the manifold right there. So I'm just tack it in place and position the angle for this one. This piece is a little bit smaller. This is like a 1-inch OD, whereas this one's a 1-inch ID. So I can slide this one right in and kind of get a little bit of a better positioning for it. So I somehow managed to use every ounce of material that I had, and it's ugly, don't get me wrong. This is it. A little bit of a gap to fill because I had to space it just a hair to get it to all line up. And I had to use some scrap to fill in the gap right there so I could get my angle. But like I said, this is every ounce of material I had, so this is what I got to work with. And now I just got to cut my hole here. I got to finish drawing the circle, but you know, you can get the general idea right there, about a, I don't know, inch, whatever that is. I'll have to measure the bit size. And yeah, once this hole is drilled, then I can go ahead and bolt that back up. And then, yeah, all will be well. I'll probably weld this on. Shoot, I don't even know. Kind of want to do it outside. Yeah, I'll have to do it outside because I can unbolt that flange, so that'll be easiest. So I'll weld this onto that and then flange. So it definitely is ugly, but you know, I'm not even going to try and make an excuse. I just straight up didn't have enough material, so I did what I could. And I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm being too much of a critique. It's not too bad, but I definitely would have liked to have had cleaner joints for sure, because I had to add a little filler piece down there to actually get that. That's why it looks so dark, because I think part of that's migging on stainless is why it looks like that. But yeah, so it is good to go. It is definitely solid, so I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing wrapped up for the guy and then get this back on the car, and I will catch up with you guys when it is all done, car's back on the ground, and we can hit up Rob and have him come grab his car and see how it sounds. So I was 99.8% done, went to go bolt it all back up, and found that the way I don't know if it's the way I made it or if it was the way that it just fits because it's so tight in here, but this flange, when I was trying to go put it up here, it was sitting like this and it wouldn't, like, couldn't get past that. So I ended up cutting this off and then bolting it all up, and now it's fine. So what I called the guy, and we just ordered 1.5-inch little V-bang clamp, because that's what size this is. And then we're just gonna have this section, just a quick disconnect. I'll clean it up and redo it since the cut was really jagged. And so that way it'll be a clean fit, but yeah, so everything is done. Just this clamp needs to be done now, so. So stressful though. This is just frustrating. This has taken a little bit longer than we thought. I ended up running out of some material. Ended up having to, after I showed you guys how I had made the dump tube, went to put it back up, found it wouldn't fit, had to cut it in half, so we got a little 1.5-inch V-band here. So thankfully, people make them that small, but I just finished bolting it all together, just finished up with the O2 sensors and everything. So it's all heat wrapped. Hopefully that will help do something other than, you know, make me itch because I'm covered in fiberglass, but yeah, it looks pretty good. So let's hope that it holds. Pretty stoked or what?
I'm pumped. You have no idea.
It sounds really smooth though, even before the break-in.
Yeah. My guy told me to break it in on the dyno.
Well, let's hope he's not wrong. Don't end up on the side of the road on your way home. See you, brother. See you later. Drive safe. Well guys, I'm gonna end this video here. I am stoked that the car drove away with no issues, no exhaust hanging on the ground. That was definitely hard. Not even the exhaust part was the hard part. It was the dump tube, because the lack of space and then limited material, which he did supply a little extra material at the end, but I had already kind of made it how I wanted it, and I really didn't want to have to redo it. So I think it should be fine. I think it should hold. I don't see why the weld should break. It's not, shouldn't really be moving around that much, if at all. But because it was stainless and I wasn't able to back purge it and I MIG'd it instead of TIG'd it, I just hope the welds last on the stainless. But that's definitely one of my future investments here. Hopefully really soon is a second bottle of argon and a second regulator, so I can start taking that type of stuff, because I hate not being able to, and I hate having to tell people like, I can't guarantee this is gonna last forever type thing. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I don't know if I got any decent clips. I have to go over the footage yet, but if you did, please slap that like button, and if you're new to the channel, hopefully you consider subscribing, and I will see you guys in the next one. So do what you love, forget about the rest, never stop learning, because that's constantly what I'm doing. So hopefully it inspires you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.